Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Clock Out the Vicarious Life. Today, I'm excited, as always, because we have Rob Kessler. He is the inventor and co founder of the Million Dollar Collar and Go Tieless. And Rob's got sales experience in a number of high dollar industries, including diamonds, real estate, and automotive sales, which provided a unique blend of backgrounds for him. His ability to look at the world through a different set of lenses than most people has led him to be successful in the businesses that he owns. Rob, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so good. It is sunshiny up here in Montana. We're starting to get a little bit warm. So, with that, my mood gets better.
That's why I left the Midwest, man. That seasonal depression is a real thing.
Oh, it is so real, and everybody around me. I just want to hand out vitamin D to people like candy. Like, hey, how are you? Here, have a little vitamin D. So where are you at right now? I believe you are down south, correct?
We are south now. Yeah, we're originally from Wisconsin. My wife and I, not totally on a whim, but kind of on a whim, just sold everything we had within 1 year and moved to Los Angeles. So we did the sunshine, sunny sun every day with mountains in the background and palm trees. So we did that for 5.5 years. She became a ridiculous, amazing stunt woman. So she works in film and TV, and she doubles people like Taylor Swift and Jenna Elfman, and she's
Oh,
crazy. She's amazing.
wife's
Yeah,
hot.
yeah, she's
Smoking
she's
hot.
she's awesome. And so while she was doing that, I was growing Million Dollar Collar and started Go Tieless, and we started and sold, grew and sold a yacht charter business, and I mean we just do all kinds of stuff. So can't
Oh
really sit still.
gosh, Rob. Well, so because of your business, the Go Tieless, I'm gonna have to convert my podcast to YouTube as well so people can see your collar. It is looking fresh. Tell me all about Go Tieless.
Yeah, I mean, look, I got married on the beach in Jamaica. My shirt looked awful. It was a brand new, freshly pressed Express 1MX, which is the number one selling dress shirt in America. And so I went out on the beach. You know, it's humid. My toes are in the sand. No tie. It's like a nice chill wedding. And before I could even say I do, and you can see this picture over my shoulder, but that's an actual photo from my actual wedding day before I even said I do. And my shirt was just this crumbled, sloppy mess. So I came home from Jamaica and I just did a bunch of internet searching, like what can, how do you reinforce this front part? So the part to me that was the problem is called the placket. It's the part with the buttons and the holes. And so there was nothing out there on the market that fixed that and reinforced that. All this weight in the collar is just working against gravity, and there's just not enough interfacing, not enough material that you can put in there. So I took the idea of a collar stay, I made it 9 inches long, and I shoved it down the front of the shirt, showed my new bride, and she goes, oh my God, I finally get what you've been like complaining about all these years, because I really like the symmetry of the shirt looking good. I mean, if you're going to put on a dress shirt, it's because you want to look good, not a sloppy mess on the biggest day of my life. So I took 3 years to play with every plastic on the market and designs and materials, and I ended up patenting and coming out with Million Dollar Collar, which is kind of an aftermarket option. So you can take any dress shirt you already own, buy Million Dollar Collar, have it sewn in. Once it's in, it lasts the life of the shirt. So that's incredible. We've sold 500,000 units to people in 130 countries in the last 6 years. And that's the hard way to do it, which is, the extra step of having to go to get it installed. We've been trying to license it the entire time, and all these brands are like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I'm like, in the meantime, I've sold 500,000 units the hard way. So
Yeah.
we just said, forget it. Let's just make our own shirt. And we have the only shirt on the market that's actually designed to be worn without a tie, with Million Dollar Collar built in. So that's Go Tieless, the only shirt designed to be worn without a
Fascinating. I have so many little follow-up questions. First of all,
tie.
when I first read your bio, I thought, okay, so first of all, I'm female, so I don't wear a tie. So probably like your new bride at the time, I'm like, I don't get it. But now that I think about it, the one factor that changes the fashion of a men's shirt, even a t-shirt, is the collar. Like, the crew neck, the low cut V-neck style or whatever. And that changes drastically how buff a guy looks, how like his jawline looks different, like everything on that. So it's kind of like a good pair of fitting jeans for the guys looking at the ladies' rear end. I think for women, it really does matter. The collar line on a shirt matters, and looking at the difference, which I'll post some pictures for listeners so they can see. But to see the difference from left to right on your display, it is just completely different.
Oh, to me, especially if you're not going to wear a tie, to me, the tie was like a focal point. You could have some pattern or whatever, and that's what kind of draw your eye in. But
Yes.
without a tie, this front, I mean, it's kind of weird, but it looks like you're mounting your head. I mean, it just draws attention right up to your face if it's this nice thing. But if it's,
Yep.
doing this,
Yep.
to me, I got maybe a little bit of OCD, and I would iron and iron and iron, and she's like all dressed up and ready to go out, and I'm still like screwing around with starch and ironing. And so, I came up with these Go Tieless shirts. We've done a couple iterations trying to figure out the right material and the right design. So we actually took the Express shirt and used that as a base. We have a ridiculously soft bamboo stretch, wrinkle resistant fabric. So the fabric is amazing. $1 million collars built in. We added a convertible cuff. So if you want to wear cufflinks with the shirt, you can just throw cufflinks on. You don't have to have a whole separate shirt for that. It's the right length to wear tucked or untucked. And with the wrinkle resistant, I mean, I wore this shirt. You could see it. Most people can't, but I wore this shirt the other night to dinner. Put it on a hanger after, and I just put it on this morning. I mean, it looks amazing. So it's just, it's to me, it's like I want to make it just easy to look good. I just want to throw on a shirt. I don't want to think about it. We've got the basic colors: white, light blue, and black, and they're $70. So they're not super expensive. I think they're a really great value. Right now, if you buy two, they're 110. So you save $15 a shirt if you buy two. And they're guaranteed. If you don't love it, send it back. And the only question we'll ask is, why don't you like it? And we'll try to make it better the next time.
For feedback, yeah. Okay, well, you answered that question. I was going to ask on the cost of each unit, but talk to me about being an inventor. What is, because, okay, little backstory, I guess. I was just talking to a young lad last week, and he is in the process of creating something that he's trying to bring to market. He's using all of this terminology, and the process to me seems daunting, overwhelming. Like, I think of great ideas, but I wouldn't even know where to start if I had something I wanted to create. What are the resources? Like, what does that basic process of inventing look like? Who do you call? Like, I mean, because I'm trying to envision you actually cutting out and using this material, and then from there, where do you send that? How do you? But that can't be how it really works. Like, what does it look like?
To me, it was just a simple process of trial and error. It's okay. So I want a collar stay. I know that they make built-in collar stays, so it's got to be heat resistant enough to handle wash, dry, iron, dry clean. So I started looking up what that material was, and it turns out that they make that material either PVC or HDPE. So go internet search and try to find what I can. And I found that Target sold like flexible cutting boards, and that was an HDPE material. So my very first thing of $1 million collar, my very first iteration was cardboard. And I knew that wasn't going to be it, but I wanted to see what a little bit of structure did. And so I played with the design with cardboard because it's cheap, it's easy to use, it's easy to manipulate. And so started with cardboard. Then I started testing plastics. So I would wash it, no problem. Dry is, 135 degrees. Irons 200 degrees. So I'm like, okay, I need a high heat iron, resistant plastic. The high heat resistant plastics only go to like 250 or 275 degrees. I found out after ruining 100 shirts and I'd get past the first three steps and I'd send it to the dry cleaner and it would absolutely melt the shirt, totally destroy it. And I found out that dry cleaners flash press your shirt from like 400 to 450 degrees. So there is no high heat plastic on the market that can handle that. So then it went into conversations, and I just happened to be talking to a buddy from high school, and he goes, "Oh, I work with a plastics company. I can introduce you, and they're local and they're right here." And so to me, I think when you're passionate about something and when you're trying to find and trying to build something and you talk about it passionately, the world is going to the universe is just going to kind of put the right people in front of you. And that's exactly what happened to me. I don't want to say it's luck because I talk to 1,000 people as much as I can. And this one guy just happened to know somebody and they got me in touch, and we ended up developing a material that is high heat resistant, almost double what dry cleaners use. It's soft enough to be sewn through. It's super flexible. It's super lightweight, and yet it's rigid enough to still hold up the weight of the collar. So it's like this, I call it this magic material. I mean, it's crazy that we were able to kind of develop this thing, but one thing led to another, and that doesn't work. Okay, what can I try? That doesn't work. Okay, what can I try? And that's, to me, that was the invention process. It's very simple what I did. There's much more complex things out there, but I do what I did.
Hands on sewing this yourself? I mean, I see a sewing machine in the background. So you don't have anywhere you're sending this off and asking somebody to produce it, for example.
I did the first few, and then it was like, okay, they charged me $15 or $20 to try to sew it in, and then I'd ruin, a dress shirt melting it. So my mom always sewed stuff as I was growing up. She taught me the hardest thing about that is literally how to thread, like to put the thread in. That's the hardest part. So she showed me how to do that. I can sew the 1 inch that you need to put $1 million collar in, and that is it. Like, I've got jeans I'd like to hem. There's other things I'd like to sew, but I have no confidence to do any of that. I could sew just to put $1 million collar in.
Huh. So then after you get the right material put together, so then what does mass producing look like?
So once we figured out the material and the design, I had a die made, and then so the material I have made in sheets. So it comes in like a roll that's 450 yards long. And then this material is made on a roll, and then so it gets slit down and die cut into the actual final piece. It looks kind of like a hockey stick, so it's just 8-9 inches long, and it's got a little hook on the end, and that hook is what stops it. You stop at the button or the buttonhole depending on where it goes, which side of the shirt it's on. And so once we started die cutting it, then it's packaging, and we just developed all this. It was just like kind of one thing after another, and like I said, it took 2.5, 3 years to patent and perfect that process. So it's just trial and error, and I wasn't on a timeline, so it was just kind of working my way through the process. And once it got there, then we hit the ground running.
So then how are you, I mean, because I'm thinking to myself, there's probably 100 people listening to this that are thinking, well, I've got an idea, I can run with it, but how am I going to support myself in the meantime? So what were you doing for income while you're taking 3 years to develop this great idea?
So I had a screen printing and embroidery business, which I'd started in my basement, and I grew that while I was doing, I got married. Before we got married, right before we got married, we bought a 6,000 square foot building. So I moved that screen printing business out of my basement, which I ran 100,000 shirts out of my basement. I would feed things through the window, and like with a little flash press dryer and a tabletop press. I mean, I went bare bones to get that business started. And I was finally ready to move out. So we bought this building. My wife started a gym. I had my screen printing shop, and then we rented out half. So I was doing real estate. I had my real estate license. I had a screen printing and embroidery business. I'm futzing around with $1 million collar and inventing that, helping my wife with her, fitness business. So I just look at things, and I heard a girl say it the other day. She goes, I just was born with that I can do that attitude. And, since we've moved to Georgia, I've built a building. I've put up a fence. I've like built all kinds of stuff. It makes sense in my head, and somehow I get it from my head to my hands, and it doesn't always go smoothly, but I usually get the job done eventually.
Has that been something, a gift that you've had since childhood, or is it something you developed later in life? Tell me about
No,
that.
I was a pretty wild little kid. So I'd break stuff and cause a ruckus, and instead of getting in trouble, I figured out how to fix things and try to get it fixed before mom and dad found out what I did. So I got to tinkering with stuff pretty early so that I'd stay out of trouble at least a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. So tell me about your past. I mean, have you ever been an employee, or have you always been a business owner in some capacity?
I did. I think the best thing that ever happened to me, one of my first jobs, I had some friends. I played soccer very competitively. I had some friends who worked at a little soccer and volleyball store, and they got me a job there. And I walked in, and the owner, day one, said, to the 17-year-old kid, he goes, "Here's the key to the store. Here's the code to the alarm. You're part of the team." And he made me feel like it was my business. And I worked there junior and senior year of high school. I worked full time once I started college. I would go in the morning, help open the shop, work for a couple hours, go to a class or two, go back to work for a couple hours, go to another couple of classes, and then close the store at night. And it just felt like mine from day one. So that really gave me kind of that business sense. And so, I was an employee there. I worked for my dad twice. The second time he fired me. So I knew that after that, I knew that I really wasn't a good employee. I was always looking for how do we do this better? How do we improve the process? Uh, and I'm very customer centric. I sold cars for a while, and I was just like, man, can I make this process easier? Can I make it a better experience? And at 22, 23 years old, nobody really takes you all that serious. So I did what I could because I loved cars and I like selling. You know,
Yeah.
but I've
And
been on my own since I was 23 or 4, I think.
okay. And so what did dad do that you were working for him? It sounds like he must have had his own business too.
Dad started a jewelry store with $700 he borrowed from my grandpa, and turned it into a $35 million, third largest independent jeweler in the country. So it was incredible working for him. I was top salesperson, but I was always like, okay, what's next? What's next? Like once I got to being good at sales, I needed more. And he'd always say, okay, you're going to take this over someday. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the next challenge? Because I'm getting freaking bored sitting here waiting for people to come through the front door. I need to be stimulated. And so, again, I'm just a knucklehead, so I'd sit around and get bored and get myself in trouble at work. And he was like, dude, you gotta, let's just be a good father son and you go do something else. And I had the screen printing business was already going, so I just moved back into that full time, and then
Sure.
we're still good. So
Did he give your very hot wife a nice ring? Did you get a good deal on it? Because I'm
oh
sure
yeah,
she.
she's drowning in diamonds. I just got her our 10-year anniversary. I got her 3 eternity bands totaling 10 carats of
Oh,
diamonds, so it's obnoxious. But
yeah. Hence,
I got the hookup. I met a couple the other day. She's like, my dad owns hardware stores and I have a $2,000 faucet. I'm like, I will never have a $2,000 faucet. My wife's got a lot of diamonds because I got the connection there, but I'm not buying $2,000 things faucets for my kitchen.
yeah, your poor wife has to work out every day just to be able to lift her arm with all the weight of
Yeah.
diamonds on. No, that's super interesting. So you do have a little bit of an entrepreneur background from dad. Obviously, he had a wildly successful from the ground up type of business, and you're following in the same shoes, doing a lot of the same. So, what is next for you business wise? I mean, I know you're still developing Go Tieless, but do you have other ideas? Are you gonna rock and roll with this for a while? Are you bored?
It's been a while. So I started this in 2013, so we're on 10 years since my anniversary, my wedding day, which is where the concept came from. Been selling for since 2016, so we're in our 7th year of sales, and it's still exciting. It's very frustrating. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I hear no. And at this point, to have sold 500,000 units to people that literally have to get this product and go find someone to install it for them, and these big brands don't want to license the technology, it's like super crazy. And it just, I keep bashing my head against the wall, but I'm just like a stubborn mule, so I just keep going. But I'm super excited about the shirts because now there's no extra step. There's nobody else who has a shirt like this. And to me, the sky's the limit. I mean, we're working on a few licensing deals for $1 Million Collar, which is exciting. But I think the idea of the shirt, we're calling Go Time as the home of business casual. If you really think about it, nobody's ever really defined it. So you're like, okay, this event is business casual. Like, what do I wear? We kind of want to build this site where it's like, if you want to wear jeans, like nice fitted, dark, clean, non-torn jeans, and a great shirt and a belt and shoot, like we kind of want to have all that eventually. Right now, we're starting with 3 shirts, and we'll see where that brand goes. But we've already had to reorder, and we've only had stock for less than 90 days, and so we're moving quite quickly. We've only had a few exchanges and only 1 or 2 returns. So out of all that inventory, it's been a really, really good feedback. Like we really try to, test with our friends and use those relationships the best we can to make sure we're putting out a really good product. And so we appreciate everybody who supported us to this point. And now it's time to go gangbusters. So
Yeah.
I'd really like to grow it. My goal is 1,000 shirts a day, and then maybe we'll sell the company at that point. But who knows?
Fabulous. So to kind of wrap this out, our show is a lot about, purpose in life. I can tell that you've got an extreme passion. You're obviously wanting to serve people in a capacity that gives them something that can better their lives. That's amazing. Do you do anything else in your life of, that's noteworthy or that you would like to talk about that's on the personal side? Do you have any hobbies, any charities, anything like that?
We've done some stuff for charity. I'd like to get to that point. I mean, to be honest, I'm barely paying myself as it is. So to not even have those, a lot of excess cash is a challenge to kind of get into that charity work. But it's something important to me. My dad is one of the top donors of Make a Wish Foundation in Wisconsin. So I love that side of it, and what he gets out of being part of that is way more than you can put a dollar amount on. So I love that, and it's definitely in my goal, in my plans. My wife is a horsey girl, so I've spent the last 2 years since we've been here building a fence and a tack room, and I just started on the stable, and I'm learning about horse stuff. So I mean, I've been around it a little bit, but she's been riding since she was 8, and it's been her dream to wake up in the morning and see a horse roam around the backyard. So I spend most of my free time helping that fantasy come true.
Oh, you are screwed. Horse ladies, they never leave them. Crazy
Yeah,
horse
I
ladies,
know.
they call them for a reason, but no, and that's
I
great.
know. She just sent me a property yesterday. Like, we've been here 2 years. She's like, oh, look at this one's got 20 acres. I'm like, we have 5. That is plenty. The horse isn't even here yet. We don't even know if this is going to be a horse at home thing. This is kind of still an experiment. She's like, oh, this one's got 20 acres. Oh, this one's got 40 acres. I'm like, geez,
Oh,
we'll get someday, maybe.
you're going to be running a horse sanctuary before
Oh,
too.
yeah, for sure. There's no question.
Well, that is awesome, Rob. Anything that you want to leave the listeners with in terms of a little kick of inspiration for them or a final message?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're passionate about what you're doing, it doesn't matter how challenging it is. You're going to have the passion. I mean, even with this, there's been plenty of days where I'm sitting on the couch like, what am I doing with my life? And I'm, you know, second guessing all of my decisions. But I know that this is a long-term thing. My wife, fortunately, is very successful as a stunt woman, and that helps sustain kind of our lifestyle, and it will flip shortly when the shirts start really selling. And so definitely being passionate is going to help push you through those hard times. If you're just chasing the dollar, it's easy to say, okay, well, that dollar is good, and then we'll go. I mean, we started a yacht charter business kind of on a whim, did $800,000 in sales before we sold the boat, and built a pretty incredible little business out of it in Los Angeles. So, but we were passionate about boating. We really love that lifestyle. We'd sold our commercial real estate, needed to put the money somewhere, bought a boat, started this business, sold that. I mean, but everything I've done, I've always kind of had this. I've always had a customer centric passion, anyways. So I feel like any industry, if you're really good to the customer, you can grow a business. So I'm on my 4th business that I've grown from 0 to $1 million revenue. So, it's all about making sure the customer is getting way more than they think they're getting. So
Absolutely. Value for the dollar. And I just
yeah,
people oftentimes are buying the person, they're buying the dream, they're buying the belief in the product more so even than the product itself. So you're a walking example of that because you are so passionate about what you're doing. Where can people find you, Rob? I'll put this in the show notes as well, but where's a good spot to find you either on social or website or both?
I would go right to Tieless.com, which is where you can find the shirts, and we're just kind of firing up our social media again. We actually originally launched in October of 2019, and you can guess how that story went. We sold through most of our stuff, and then we couldn't get anything remade. So we had to reboot a couple times, and now the site's clean, the product's amazing. We do have milliondollarcollar.com as well, and yeah, those are probably the 2 best places to check us out.
Hey, that sounds amazing, Rob. Thank you so much for your time and energy. You're an inspiration. I'm excited to go check this out. I'm gonna have to order one of these for my very handsome husband and have him looking dapper everywhere he goes. So yes, thank you so much. And guys, I'll have this information in the show notes for you guys to tune in and check out more on Rob.